Hello and welcome to Unit 6. First of all, I want to congratulate you on making it through the rational unit. That's a pretty tough unit. Lots of algebra going on in that unit. So congratulations, you've made it through that, and reciprocal graphs. So the rest of the unit, the rest of the course should actually feel quite a bit easier. The last few units, we still have a few units left. They're very short, simple units. They're about 1 week unit, so about only 3 or 4 lessons per unit, and then we'll have some kind of hand-in or assessment. So hang in there, we're near the end. It should get a little bit easier, a little bit better. But congratulations, like I said, for getting through those radical and rational units on your own. The work that's coming in is fantastic, so I know this isn't ideal, but you're all doing a great job of getting caught up and doing your work and thoroughly and still keeping up with the concepts. So congratulations, that is huge. Okay, absolute value, Unit 6. So today's lesson is just to really understand what is an absolute value. What does that mean? So by definition, the absolute value of A, and again, we have a new way of symbolizing this, these 2 vertical lines. So the absolute value of A, that's how we write that. So the absolute value of A is defined as, now there's 2 ways to define it, right? If A is already positive, then it stays positive. But if A was negative, we make it negative. So that doesn't make sense, does it? Well, it sure does. Basically, that's a fancy way of saying the absolute value of a number, it's always positive. If it was positive, it stays positive. It was negative, you make it negative, but a negative brings it back to positive. So that just says the absolute value of a number is always positive. Why? Well, let's define it another way. If you took physics last term, then you've done work with displacement, right? And you understand that in physics term. Because absolute value, another way to define it in words instead of formula, it's just the distance from 0 on a number line. And it doesn't matter which way you go, left or right. So that's why it doesn't really matter if it's positive or negative. Absolute value is just talking about distance from a reference point in the middle. So that's why the value is always positive. So like I said, if you took physics, you've done a lot of work with that. I know not everyone did. So here's my analogy. So you have some investigation questions that you're doing to kind of understand the concept of it. But here, I have a real number line, but it is fallen off the wall, as you know. So here, I'm standing at 0. So if I walk this way to the right, I have now walked, okay, I'll keep going. This is 10 units to the right. So my distance from 0 is 10. I walked 10 units to the right of 0. Now, if I go back in the middle, what if I walk this way? Now I'm walking to the left 10 units. Well, I'm at negative 10. But when I'm talking about distance, remember distance is always positive, right? So I still walk 10 units. Here I walk 10 units to the right. Here I walk 10 units to the left. It doesn't matter that my number line is showing negative 10, it's still positive. So that's what absolute values are. Just your distance from 0, regardless of direction. So if it was 10 units to the right, it stays 10. If it was 10 units to the left, it's not negative 10, I still walk to 10 units. That's the whole point of today's lesson, is understanding absolute values. So you'll see we have 3 examples, so much shorter and easier than all those rational expressions we just came through. So should be a nice, hopefully easier week for us in pre-cap. So our first question, evaluate the absolute value of 4. Well, 4 is positive, so since it's positive, it just stays positive. It is that simple. Example 2, what's the absolute value of negative 5? Well, on our definition on the first slide, if it's negative, you make it negative. Remember, that was the definition. If it's greater than 0, it stays positive. If it's less than 0, you make it negative. But negative 5 is just plus 5. From this point on, we're going to skip this step, because if you know your definitions, just know if it's positive, it stays positive. If it's negative, it becomes positive. And that's the reasoning why. And one last example. I think we understand the concept of absolute values. Evaluate. So just applying bed mass to absolute values. So again, watch your notation. Make sure, sometimes, even myself included, I get mixed up my absolute values. Sometimes I think they're numbers or they're ones. So just be clear, those are our absolute value brackets. Order of operations, we do our brackets. 12 times negative 3 is negative 36. Exponents, 5 squared is 25. We still keep the absolute value brackets. Negative 36 plus 25 is negative 11. The absolute value of negative 11, now I can drop the absolute value brackets as 11. It's really easy, but sometimes people just drop these absolute value brackets too soon. Okay, that's it for today's lesson. So you have a few textbook questions just to practice this, but like I said, this is only a 3-lesson unit, so it should be quite a bit easier than what we've got through. Okay, good luck and have fun with your assignment today.